And what do you make of that? The numbers are moving in the right way. The numbers are dropping. The numbers in hotels and off hotels are coming down. And your reaction's been disproportionate and over the top.
I reject that. It's not, first and foremost, the numbers. It's the fact that hotels are being used to accommodate these illegal migrants into the United Kingdom.
Well, they're not illegal if their claim hasn't been processed.
Sorry, the presumption is that it is an illegal migrant who is then seeking to legitimise their position and to obtain legal status. Now, the context of this is that I have hundreds of constituents, others have hundreds of constituents on housing waiting lists. They don't get hotels. They don't get free meals. They're put at the end of a list. And the end of the list, some have languished on for years for housing. So when adopting an attitude that anyone who arrives, howsoever they arrive, into the United Kingdom illegally is immediately deported. Now that, of course, legally would require us to significantly adjust our approach. We would have to disavow aspects of the European Convention on Human Rights. In Northern Ireland in particular, we'd have to disavow the wretched Article 2 of the protocol, which, of course, as we saw in the Rwanda case, prevents us from following GB legislation on these issues. And we would have to disavow the very much out-of-date Refugee Convention of 1951. So fundamental changes need to be made, but it's a question of national sovereignty.
Okay.
And a national government should be taking control and should be building.
If you were to move these people out of the hotels, where would you move them to? What's your thought on this? What would your plan be? Trevor Clark was talking about moving them to disused army barracks in England. What would you do?
Much more radical. When they arrive here illegally, we should change the law so that we could deport them immediately.
No, but I'm talking about the people. I'm talking about the people who are currently in the hotels in Northern Ireland.
Something else that we could do that's done in England. There's a right to rent check in England. It isn't here, and the right to rent check in England in the private sector means you can't rent unless you can show that you're legally in the country. You can rent here in the private sector, and the previous contributor talked about the housing executive. She didn't mention the housing sector, the private housing sector, and that's where most of them are being housed in HMOs, etc. We should have the same provision as they have in England, that you cannot rent in the private sector unless you are here legally.
Okay.
And if we had that, that would be a further deterrent, because fundamentally we need to arrest this situation whereby the United Kingdom is being used as a soft touch, and used by a soft touch as in by an EU which has a Dublin regulation, which is supposed to say that they should send those who arrive into the EU back to their first point of entry. They let them come from France into the United Kingdom.